Welcome to the Generation Elevation podcast, a conscious, connected platform for those who are ready to manifest their dream life. I'm your host, Elise Riley, a former PT, now motivational speaker, igniting empowerment and transformation all across the globe. Here at Generation Elevation, we are committed to bringing you the most inspiring guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and advice to help you progress closer to living a life of your own terms. Welcome back to another episode of Generation Elevation. Now, today, I am joined by an extremely special guest to me. It's so funny even saying this, but I'm going to tell you this story before we start. When I created my podcast like a year and a bit ago, I wrote down a list of dream guests to have on my show. And I wrote a list of people down. And at that time, I wrote down Hattie Boydell. And I remember I messaged a few times. I was like, a little bit nervous. And I totally get like this woman, she is on a mission. And the other day, funnily enough, I leave for London tomorrow. And I thought, wow, it'd be really cool to have Hattie on because she's on the Gold Coast. And I bumped into her at the gym and she was in conversation with a few people. And I walk up to them and my brain was like, oh, no, don't go up to her, don't go up to her. And my soul just kept me walking towards her. So I was like, hey, and I said it really awkwardly. And she was like, hey, and they were in conversations. They went back to the conversation. I was like, oh, like, Hattie, I really want you on my podcast. And I said it like so funnily. So for those of you that don't know, Hattie is a WBFF world champion in the fitness category. She's the founder of the Sports Model Project. She's a coach, an educator, an athlete, a motivator. And when I first started my fitness journey, when I was PTing, doing nutrition back in the days, like Hattie was my inspo. So to be sitting here with her right now, it is such an honor. So with that said, I'd like to introduce you to you, Hattie Boydell.
Oh my God, Elise, I obviously didn't know that. So Surprise. I honestly, I could hear that a million times and I'll feel like I'm hearing it for the first time ever.
Oh, that's so cool.
So one, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. And two, it really means a lot to me as well. So I always feel honoured and very grateful that anyone wants to have me on their podcast. And I'm actually so happy that we get to do it right before your big move because you're about to start this amazing new journey with so many wonderful challenges and challenges that are going to give you so much growth. So I'm very excited for you.
Thank you so much. And I'm so grateful to be here in this moment too. It's almost like a bit of a symbolic moment or stamp in time where it's like, yeah, I've grown so much to attract this podcast conversation right now. And it's just a glimpse to where I'm going, which is really cool. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. All right.
So Hattie, for those listeners out there that have no idea what WBFF is, who have no idea who you are, I'd love to hear about your journey. So from where you started and then maybe the 3 major moments that have led you to compete and then what specifically that is.
Yeah, so this is a question I get asked all the time and I think, how do I respond to this? And when I think about my journey and where I am today, it actually started from when I was really young. So my parents put me into gymnastics when I was the age of 4. And I bring that up now because gymnastics taught me so many of the qualities and skill sets I use today as an adult. And I'm so grateful, like I look at what I used to do with my body and also just the resilience and passion and skill development that thing taught me. I was training 32 hours a week by the time I was 12 years old. And the beautiful thing about gymnastics is it taught me to be able to do anything. It's really paid off for me as a fitness model now. It kind of let me do everything under the sun. And one of the biggest gifts that I realized that gymnastics gave me was it gave me a sense of community. And with that, it helped me base the business that I have now, and also just showed me how important friendship is. Okay. And I'll circle back to that part shortly, but I was an elite gymnast growing up, which led me to do any sport under the sun. And I've actually been in the fitness industry for 16 years. I didn't think I was going to end up in the fitness industry, to be honest. I actually thought I was actually going to be maybe an interviewer or on the Weather Channel or something.
Cool.
Really interesting. But when I was in high school, I actually didn't finish school, and I didn't finish school because I got very sick. It was the first time I ever was exposed to a death, and it really shook me, and I don't think I knew how to grieve. And I remember thinking, oh my God, life can be taken away so quickly. And I went into this kind of overwhelming cycle of just wanting to control everything, because I was like, oh my God, it's like gone like that. And I remember thinking, you know what? I'm going to change everything I don't like about myself. I'm going to start training again. I'm going to start looking after my health and my nutrition. But I knew so little about what health and nutrition was. And I got so much of my information from diet magazines, diet culture. And that was really unhealthy. And funny enough, I went from being a really naughty girl in school to I wanted to be a grade A student. So I stopped talking to my friends, sat at the front of the class, and the teachers were like, what the hell's happened to this girl? Because you were a little shit, to be honest, a lovely little shit. And at first the teachers were like, praising me. But then they obviously saw that I was starting to control absolutely everything. And I remember I failed a subject that I was studying really hard for, and it was actually public speaking.
Wow.
If anyone's ever listened to me, you know how petrified I am of public speaking, and I swear it's come from this. And I just remember thinking, no matter what you do, you're just not good enough. And that kind of skyrocketed, again, everything that I could control, but it became do you deserve this? So I had to work for my food. I wasn't allowed to eat till I'd done my study. I had all these rules for myself, which maybe as some of you are listening can probably relate to maybe a part of your life. It really put me in a bad position to the point where I couldn't finish school and had to be hospitalized. Now, the thing about this moment, the thing about this time in my life is it gave me the greatest gift it could ever give me, and that was being in hospital, looking around and going, oh, this is a thing. Like, there's other women that are suffering. I felt like I was strong enough to suffer, but these girls sure as hell weren't. That's not the right thing. But I thought, oh my God, I have to help these women. And you have to lead with yourself. And so I was like, okay, how do I get out of here? Well, I've got to eat some food and get healthy. And, a year later, got out of hospital, and I said to my parents, Mum and Dad, I want to do a PT course. So they enrolled me into my personal training course. I paid for it. I was 17 years old. And 2 days after I turned 18, I started becoming a personal trainer. That was 16 years ago.
Wow.
And it was the greatest gift, not only because it led me into the fitness industry to do the job that I couldn't imagine doing anything else in this fucking universe, but it taught me how powerful my mindset was. And I am obsessed with my mindset, but I'm also obsessed with the relationship of ourself. And it wasn't till I got in there that I was like, I'm not here by chance. I'm here by choice, and I'm here by the choices that I'm repeating every fucking minute of the day for extended periods of time. And it was like, holy shit, this mindset's like, if I nearly killed me, if I change my mindset, what can I achieve? And it was like flip moment. That was like the first big piece of part of my life that was like an epiphany or like a transformation moment where I was like, okay, my mindset, it's pretty fucking powerful. Nearly fucking killed me. All right, what are we going to do with it? And so it forced me to look at my mindset. It forced me to look at my relationship with myself. It forced me to look at my relationships with my habits and everything else. And, it wasn't just this moment where it's like, oh, you're fixed. It was a fucking roller coaster of I want this thing, but I feel like this. And the beautiful thing about that moment was I never associated my eating disorder with me. I always said it's this piece of me. And I could disassociate it, so I could separate myself from it. And funny enough, when I started working with the neuropsych 10 years later, there's something called the PARTS model. And I think it's David Segal who actually created this PARTS model, and he noticed that he had a lot of his disordered eating patterns, a lot of his patients with eating disordered habits, they would always say, a part of me, a part of me, a
Yeah,
part
it's like
of
an
me.
NLP model.
Yeah. So I kind of recognize like there's this part of me that's telling me to do this thing, but I know it's not right. Thank God I'm curious about myself, because it really helped me separate a lot of parts of me. But essentially that really tough moment led me to the industry. I started competing in 2011, and I fell in love with competing because it really did mimic training for something and competing for something. So very much mimicked gymnastics. So it gave me so much purpose. But I also remember being there and being like, okay, this is really cool, but I want to be more than this. I want to be more than just a fitness model. And that led me to further want to get educated. And then a couple of years later, I met one of my greatest mentors, Sebastian Oreb, who I now travel around Australia and teach seminars, train the female athlete. And we teach women how to get fucking badass strong. Because strength training, again, was like the next pivotal moment that actually really, it was like the last kind of station on the train station. And it was like, oh, this body, it can be really strong. And it wasn't about the way I looked, which I loved. It was how I showed up. And again, that and learning actually flexible dieting, that same year I started working with Layne Norton.
Yeah.
And those two things were like the most powerful tools in my toolbox that just really kind of just changed my relationship with myself in the way that it was like, all right, you're an athlete now. Let's go. Like, how do you feel your body? How do you look after it with love, but how do you push it to its limits? And then it just kind of skyrocketed. It's only just been up and up and up and up from those moments. So I've told a bit of a deep story, quite a long story, and I'm going to pass this over to you,
It's
Elise,
beautiful.
in case you've got some questions for me, and then I can go back into it.
All right. Well, I really appreciate, like, that was amazing. And I feel like all the listeners would be like, oh no, just keep going. You're amazing. Right. So I'm curious to know, like, especially throughout that journey and coming to where you are now, like obviously starting versus now, what was the advice that was quite damaging that you received back then that you now know is like damaging? And what would your advice be for people that potentially have experienced that? Or what would be your advice in rebuttal?
Oh my gosh, guys, like, you know, so much has changed. Like that was, 18 years ago that I had that eating disorder. And like I said, I got all of my education and diet information from your weekly magazine. And I guess the biggest, what I can vividly remember is anything around carbohydrates and fruit. Can't have fruit because of the carbs. But, then we can go and eat, half a block of chocolate or whatever it is. And I was like, the thing around carbs, and then also just these low calorie diets, which are just 1, unsustainable, 2, should only be done in very small doses, and 3, it's about fueling our bodies for success. So, I have a very much an athlete mindset where it's like, okay, if I want to perform, how do I fuel? If I want to perform, how do I recover? If I want to perform, how do I measure my success? And I think, we can get all this information, but the biggest thing we have to remember is everything we do, all the choices we make, the people we spend our time with, where we spend our time is directly related to our relationship with ourselves. And it sets the tone for everything. So you can go on a diet, but that's a Band-Aid for something that you're feeling in here. And until we work on that thing in here, everything else is just, a relief system. You change your body and you feel good for that time it's changed, but then you go back to your old ways. You can change everything you want on the outside, but if the inside doesn't change, it's not a transformation. You've just made some changes.
Yep.
And that's what I realized. I was like, I want to transform. Like, I want to help women transform. There's what's really interesting, Elise, I'm going to go down a million rabbit holes, so just pull me out when I'm in there. Isn't it interesting how contagious negative talk is? Isn't it interesting? And, thank God I think there's been more of a movement around, positive talking, but it's not just about being positive. It's not just affirmations. It is habits and behaviors.
Yes, 100%.
And it is changing our story. And it is we are only we can only go as high as our self-belief. So it is about, believing in yourself. And the only way can we believe in ourselves is by taking the actions.
Yes, I totally agree. I did a presentation literally yesterday for a group of young women in football. And I spoke about to achieve your goals, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way you are right. And so the 3 keys to achieving your goals that I then shared with these ladies is having trust in yourself, having confidence in yourself, and then taking that action. Because if you don't have trust or confidence, you're unlikely to take the action. You don't believe, right? But if you have the trust and the confidence and you're not actually doing the thing, you're not going to take the step. So it's a balance of all 3.
How do you build confidence?
Exactly. And it's like connecting with yourself.
That, and it's, like I said, it's the actions. And it's, if you can do one thing every day that honors your goal, just one thing, what you do is you create a little bond of repair with yourself. So we've all broken trust with ourselves at some point in our life. Yeah. But if we continue to break that trust, then how do we feel? We say X, Y, and Z, or we say we're not good enough, or we lose confidence. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, what is the cost? There's certain things I say to myself that no matter how scared I am, no matter how much fear I have, no matter how much I want to resist this thing, I'm like, what is the cost of not doing it? What is the cost of inaction versus what is the cost of action? And that always goes, again, it's like having a boardroom meeting in your brain and going, well, these parts of me that want to stay safe, like this inaction makes them feel good. But then the other parts of me that feel so much stronger and that have so much more of an impact on my soul means that I have to go and do that hard thing. Now, I mentioned before, I'm petrified of public speaking. I'm going to tell you a story. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was invited to an event in Sydney and I was having panic attacks like I've never experienced in my life. And even to the point where I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was petrified. And I've spoken at seminars, but I always speak with someone. If I got someone near me, I'm good. I love ping pong. But to go and speak on my own was just so overwhelming. And I got up on stage and I swear there was like 99% of me that was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. You're going to have to walk up and say, sorry, everyone, I can't do this. Like that was how I thought I was going to go. Like I couldn't pull myself out. I was like, you've got imposter syndrome. I was going in all loops and I'd never experienced anything so intense like that. Anyway, I get on stage, my jaw's chattering, I'm sweating, I feel like I'm going to pass out, and I just look at these people in the room and no one knew who I was. It wasn't an event where everyone was like, oh, Hattie Boydell. It was an event where my friend, it was about motivation and inspiration, but a bunch of people that had no idea who I was. I had a brain surgeon talking before me. I was like,
wow.
Yeah. And I get up and I'm like, hi, everyone. And my jaw's like chattering. And I start this presentation and I said my 30-minute presentation in 13 minutes and completely forgot. Like, I remember my brain was like, okay, we're going to do this. And then it was like, went left. It's like, go left. No, go right. And I said this speech in 13 minutes and I just looked at everyone. I said, hey guys, look, I'm really on it. I'm got to be honest. I'm petrified of public speaking and I've forgotten my speech and my PowerPoint's not working. So does anyone have any questions for me? And luckily, someone put their hand up, and you can Q&A me all day. That puts me straight back in my window. And I was able to finish the 30 minutes off with the Q&A.
Yeah.
But I walked away going, if that was the worst thing that was going to happen to me, it actually wasn't that bad. And I was like, okay, what am I going to learn from this? Well, I need to prepare myself better. What am I going to learn from this? It's like someone walking into the gym for the first time and trying to put 100 kilos on your back. Not going to happen. I'm an amateur at this. I'm an absolute fucking beginner. I've had no teacher training or anything like this. And so when I had to go do an event a couple of weeks ago, you bet I started writing and preparing, and I was still petrified. I was still, 3 weeks out. I was like going to call Dane and be like, I can't do this. My mum's like, love, if you still feel like that in a week's time, then give him a call. But she was like, just really didn't. She's like, just
hang in there.
Yeah. And so I prepared myself better and I went and did the thing, and voila, I made it through an hour. The next day I made it through 90 minutes, and I walked away and I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I just know I need a lot of practice.
Yeah.
And so I could have gone, no, I'm not good enough. No, I failed. No, I can't do this thing. And I would always sit in, yeah, that's right, I can't do this. Yeah, okay, no, I'm scared of public speaking. That doesn't mean I'm not still scared of it. It still scares me, but it pulls me towards something because I want to get better at it.
Yeah.
So when we have these things with fear, we're all going to have fear at times in our life. Uncertainty, unknown, doing something for the first time, failing in the past, right? You fall off a horse, the best thing to do is get the fuck back on that horse. It's the same thing with anything that we do. So how we build confidence, we have to do the thing. How do we get better at something? We have to practice.
Yeah.
So, you can say I want to get better but not do anything. You're not going to improve.
Yeah.
You have to go and do the work. And remember, what feels hard in the beginning feels so much easier later on.
100%. And I completely resonate with you, Hattie, on everything you just said. Literally, like, this is exactly what I teach my clients behind the scenes, and also especially with the taking action piece. When I first started my personal development journey, I remember hearing from like James Smith or something, like just making one small promise to yourself every single day. And mine was, okay, I'm going to make my bed, because a successful person makes their bed and I want to be successful. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make my bed. And then as soon as I started doing that every single day, the next thing was like, okay, well, I'm going to do get 10,000 steps a day. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I do that every day. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to do the gym and get my program done all week. And then it's like, going to hit my calories every day. And then it's like, I'm going to meditate. And then you start combining and conjuncting or bringing together the habits and habit stacking those things that you want to do. And eventually you start to evolve into the person that in the past maybe felt so far away. And then all of a sudden you get there and you're like, oh shit, like that used to scare the shit out of me. And now I'm speaking on stage like a pro. It's because you were doing the things and the confidence came later.
Something that you that we were talking about just before was manifestation. And, when I think about manifestation, it's something that actually we are doing. And the reason it's manifested is because we have taken actions towards something, whether it's speaking to someone that has an association with that manifestation, or we're doing daily practices. It's not like this magical thing that shows up on our doorstep and we're like, oh, it's manifested. It's like, no, there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, whether you can acknowledge or not. And, it's funny, like I'm scared of public speaking. It challenges me, but I can always see myself doing it. I can see the way I want to do it. So I can still envision myself doing this thing, even though sometimes it'll make my heart drop. Like, when your stomach drops.
Oh yeah.
So the thing is, if you want to be successful at whatever it is in life, you have to see yourself there. You have to see yourself there, because you have to pull yourself through hard times to continue to work towards that thing. So I knew no matter what, like that I would say yes to everything. I've said yes to every public speaking event that's been thrown at me this year, regardless of how challenged I am by it. It's like, say yes, and you fucking deal with it. You figure it out later. And now I notice, okay, well, now I have to keep doing this thing. Otherwise, I notice when it's been too far, I fall back into, I can't do this. So it's like when you haven't been to the gym for a long time, you get nervous about getting under the bar again, or squatting or whatever it is. Remember, small steps climb mountains, and that repair thing. Do one thing with yourself that bonds you to I can, I will, I can. And the other is, we have a repair system, and a repair system we can apply to our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our habits, and our relationship with friends and family, right? But the biggest thing that most women struggle with is that repair system with ourselves, because we now have to break a lot of habits, right? We have to break these little things that, it's being honest with yourself. Like training and nutrition, it's an honesty policy. Relationship with yourself, it's an honesty policy. You can share all the fucking affirmations you want in the world. You can share all the words, but at the end of the day, the person you cannot lie to is yourself, which means you have to be radically responsible and have radical self-leadership for yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. But you do that, you change everything for yourself. Something that you named was, I'm going to make my bed every day because I want to be successful. Yeah. And then you did that every day. And then you're like,
now it's a no-brainer.
Now that's effortless. And then you applied effort to the next thing. Yeah. And then you applied effort to the next thing. And now you've got a fucking list of things that you do every day that are now effortless.
Yeah.
And you bet they support you being able to show up as you are, the best that you can for yourself and then for others. Right? So if we want to lead, we have to lead by example. That's always been the biggest thing for me. It's like, oh, cool, you want to lead? Right, it starts here. It doesn't start out there telling someone else to do. Again, imposter syndrome. Right? Why do people feel like imposter syndrome? Because they're not leading by themselves.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, it's like the imposter syndrome comes up when there is a lack of integrity with what they're sharing and then what they're actually embodying. Like I know, especially with just a few experiences this year, stepping on stage, running my own events, like when you are running an event, when you're standing on stage, when you're in a podcast, like you are fully seen. Like people see all of you. Like people think that their secrets are hidden and they're tucked away, but really like everyone wears their secrets, right? We wear our secrets. They are like, if you sat down and there's a few personal developments I've done and you sit down and you just write down the first impression of someone, then you share it. It's like quite a full on process. And I remember at that point in my life, I didn't believe I was good enough. I still was a bit insecure and shy and it stuck out. Like I thought I was hiding this, but people wrote this down. They could see that in me. And so now when I step on stage, it's like I am fully certain and I know my shit and I get up there and I do my thing because like without that imposter syndrome, it's like I know what I'm doing. Whereas back then I felt so nervous and I felt like, oh my gosh, like maybe I'm not good enough to do this. And when you feel like that, you wear it all over your body, you know? And I believe like there's a saying that your subconscious mind is represented or symbolic of how you present yourself as well physically.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about with that. And it is like, we have to, you know, when I talk about being the greatest version of yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think most people really know what the greatest version of themselves is. And if you don't, you're not going to be very clear with how it is that you want to show up for yourself every day. So a big piece of this relationship with self is who is it that you want to be? And it's not want to be, need to be. Who am I? That's such a deep question. And for a long time, when someone would ask me, who am I? I'd be like, I actually don't know, especially when relationships would end. It's like, we can name all these different things. Oh, I'm a WBFF pro, I'm a coach. It's like, cool, they're all badges.
Yeah, it's like ego, identity. Like Eckhart Tolle speaks about this, like where people identify themselves as I'm a mum or I'm
Instead of, I'm Hattie Boydell and I enjoy doing this and I love to educate. And, you know, so get really clear on who your greatest version of you is. And then how does she show up from the moment you wake up with your eyes? And I'm not perfect. I've had imposter syndrome. I have parts of me that go, are you really good enough? I've got very high standards of myself. As soon as I finish an event, you bet I am a list of what are you going to do better, but I still always acknowledge what I did well. So even at that event in Sydney 6 weeks ago, not the most recent one, where I failed, I don't want to say failed, I failed forward gracefully, still gracefully, not on my face, nearly, could have. I still walked away and said, okay, I need to practice more. But I know when I started speaking, when I was in the Q&A, I articulated myself well. There was not one person that was on their phone. I still commanded the room. I still could say I did some things well, but there's a lot of things you got to work on. And it was all in the preparation. And you know what? I can control that. And a part of our relationship with ourselves is like, well, what do we focus on? There are things that we can't control, and that's totally fine, but we can certainly control how we respond via overreacting.
Yeah.
Right. So, and again, this is everything we do, our development with ourselves, our self-development, it's never going to stop. You know, once we think we made it, something will fucking hit us in the face and we're like, whoa. And then we have to go and do a little bit more work. And that is the greatest gift that we can ever have. You know, every time my birthday comes around, I'm like, another year with myself. Like, thank you. Life actually gets better as you get a little bit older. I will say that.
Yeah, I agree that when you connect with yourself on that deeper level, like I know from starting my journey and the more aware I become of just the way I feel, the way I think and my potential and where I'm going, it's like it gets more exciting. It's like, okay, well, what else can I do? If I can do this, then like if I can do anything if I set my mind to it. So let's have fun. Like, let's play this game of life and just show up and see what can happen.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What's your greatest fear?
My greatest fear, the first thing that comes to mind is that I won't make it, that I'll let myself down.
And when you say that, can you dissect it a little bit more for me?
Yeah, of course. So in regards to like my vision since I have been young has always, like, I know that I'm going to speak on stages all around the world. Like, I'm flying to London, I'm going to work with professional athletes over there, and I know this in my soul. But the human part of me is sometimes pops up being like, but what if you don't make it? Like, what if you don't actually do this and it doesn't work out? And for me, like, this is something that I have done a lot of work on, and it does come up. Like, I was going to say this before about when you have your purpose or your destiny, I believe that automatically that thing is going to be out of your comfort zone. And when you meet your edge, that is when you meet your greatest fears. And every time, like when I took the leap to live in the Gold Coast, when I took the leap to start this podcast, when I took the leap to get you on here, when I took the leap to go to London, it's like I've always been met with that edge. What if it doesn't work out? What if I say no? What if I get rejected? What if I fail? And every single time, like, I believe those fears are initiating me to be that person, to live that vision. So, yeah.
You know, it's interesting. So fear drives a lot of action. So does pain. But it can't be the motivator forever.
No.
Right? And something that you named before was, I want to speak on stages all over the world. And something that you named even before that was, you've been speaking on stages in Australia.
Yeah.
So you're already on this journey, right? And the recipe for success is consistency and effort times 10 years, right? Have you been in this game for 10 years?
Definitely not.
Right. So you've still got more success to come, and you're only going to get better. So the thing is that we want it now, but maybe where you're at is like, life meets us where we're at. We don't know that, but we understand it later on. It's like, oh, you look back and be like, this all happened. It had to happen. I had to learn that way. I had to get that lesson. I had to meet that person. I had to make that mistake. You know, and life meets us where we need to be met. And, you know, everything that you named, that you've reached out for, that you've done, what happened?
Oh, well, I went and did a thing and it worked. It followed through. It happened. It manifested. Like right now.
It didn't manifest.
Yeah.
You went and did the thing. That's the thing. It's like, I love manifestation, but I also love action.
Yeah. It was like, I believe that the manifestation is the result of the action. So because I took that action, it manifested.
Yeah, I do. It's a funny thing. It's like my brother's like super spiritual, and I had this conversation with manifestations. And I'm like, manifestation is a beautiful. It's like, the word manifestation is beautiful.
There's lots of connotations, I think, attached to manifestation. Yeah, for sure. I get that.
But everything you're doing is on the path that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and what's the worst that's going to happen? I don't see yourself ever failing. A rejection is not failure.
No.
A rejection is a pivot or
feedback.
It's feedback. And the hard thing about the way we live in this world is no one likes to be challenged that way. Everyone just wants yes. Everyone just wants validation. But we don't always learn that way. Like, when I will get feedback from people, sure, acknowledge what I've done well. I like a shit sandwich, right? That's important. So a shit sandwich is like, tell me what I'm doing well, but please tell me.
Constructive criticism.
Give me that. Critique me.
Yeah.
Like, critique me. Tell me what I can do better.
Yeah.
And then wrap it up with, this is what we're going to do. Or this is what I recommend that you do. Or keep practicing. Great. I know I can get better that way. We can't just get, you're great and you're doing great, sweetie. That's what I said to the people. I'm like, just when I'm stuffing up, just say, you're doing great, sweetie.
Yeah.
We can't always just have that. Like, we can't just always be like, people are getting too fragile, you know, and then someone says something to them and challenges them. It's like, no. Take on the challenge. Like, sometimes some people's opinions actually mean nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And we also have to remember that someone's opinion, while it's to us, it's not always about us. It's the fact that we held a mirror and they felt something and they don't know what to do with that, and then they throw it back at you. And then we just have to hold the mirror and go, it's actually not about me. So that is also the world that we live in. And being on social media, anyone that's on social media, unfortunately, we are faced with people who think it's their right to tell us how they feel when we haven't asked for it, and it's also unsolicited. But then we have to realize, like, it's water off a duck's back, right? If you have a mission, this is what I talk about. This is how I talk about finding a niche. Passion, power, purpose. What are you passionate about? What's the mission you're on? What problem are you trying to solve? Who is it that you want to work with? Power. What makes you feel powerful, but then also what makes you feel powerless, right? Make a list of them, and the thing that makes you feel powerless, work on it. Don't punish what's strong. Work on what's weak. And then, of course, your passion, and purpose is at the end. Purpose is, who is it that you want to work with? Like, what is the mission that you're on?
What was the things that you had wrote down for feeling powerless?
So I noticed for myself, it is like limiting self-beliefs. It is, they're not good enough, right? Am I good enough? That's actually my greatest limitation. Not having, when I'm feeling uncertain, when it's something I've never done before, and it's definitely childhood trauma that will come up for me, and that is the failing of the speech, not finishing school and telling myself, you're just not smart enough.
Yeah.
Which is actually incorrect, because I've helped thousands of women all over the world transform their bodies and their minds. So it's like, at some point you got to step back and go, how much evidence do you need?
Yeah.
Like, at some point we have to say, are we addicted to being negative? Because like I said, negative talk is contagious. For every negative, we need 5 positive.
Yeah.
Okay. For every 1 negative feedback, you might look at your messages and you'll have someone say something so lovely to you, and you'll get one person that tells you their 2 cents.
Yeah.
And you'll focus on that thing. And I've had to learn to go, that's cool. Yeah. Like, I wonder what's going on for you right now. And I'm really grateful that I've been able to learn how to go, oh, that's not actually about me. I'm sorry you feel that way. Especially, when there's, women in the industry coming up, there's some people that don't like that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think, well, what are you doing to support the industry? What are you doing to support others? And yeah, unfortunately, negativity gets a lot more engagement on social media as well. You'll never see me do that. I just don't think that makes a better world or a better community. And community is really important for people. Really, really important. So the thing about COVID, when that all went down, it's like the world as a whole, as a community, suffered, but we didn't get together as a community on the world to help each other. It was quite a weird thing. But why people suffered is because they felt alone.
Yeah. We
couldn't touch anymore. We couldn't hug. We couldn't kiss. Like, our behaviors of showing love and expression and feeling a part of something was totally, challenged. And so it's so nice to see the world get back to a more normal place. But it was quite a weird shift, kind of getting everyone back in. But community is one of the most important things. It's part of our biological needs to be a part of a tribe.
Yes, definitely.
Right? Yep. So for anyone's listening that you feel alone, honestly, one of the best things you'll ever do is find really good friendships. I was going to say female friendships, but this could mean men finding a male community, females finding female communities. That's why the gym has such a big impact, because it is a community.
Definitely.
But even being a part of online communities is really important as well.
Yeah, I found that too. And even like building this generation elevation community as well. Like I was explaining to you before we even jumped on, like, when you're a part of a community, it's like almost everyone elevating together. It's like everyone holding each other accountable to that best version of
buddy system.
Yourself. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, you want to be the best version of yourself? I'll hold you accountable to that. And I hope that in return, you hold me accountable to that too. And we all reflect back to each other our strengths, and then also share that constructive criticism, like we were talking before, the shit sandwich. Yeah.
Something that I taught at the Clean Health Seminar was, success is a we game. Self-mastery is a me game, right? To master the self-leadership, to take ownership for ourselves, work on ourselves furiously with love and compassion, devotion. But success, our success, your success, you're not doing this on your own. You're doing it with help, right? Yeah. People that come onto your podcast, they're going to help elevate your success. Your mentors, the teachers and friendships, like some of our friendships are just our teachers. Some of our hardest friendships are our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Success is a we game, and community is part of that. And so when you're a part of a community and you share something that you've overcome, the greatest thing is feeling heard and seen, you know, and being able to go, yeah, actually, as you elevate and as I elevate and as you elevate, like together, we are elevating the success of our community, of our team, of our tribe. And it encourages us to do that little bit better. It's not in isolation. Like go far, you can go far on your own, but you can go further with others.
I love this. And I have an awesome question now in regards to that. So for those high performers out there that have that mindset that, oh, I can just do it on my own, what would be your advice for those people going through that right now? Oh, like I'm just going to do it by myself.
Look, there's a lot that we can learn on our own, but the greatest thing you'll ever do is outsource to someone who can do better than you. I love being around people who are more successful than me. I love being around people who are doing things that it might not be directly what I want to do, but fuck me, I love seeing success, especially if they're, you know, Australian or they're young. And I'm like, yes, go you.
Yeah. Because
it's funny. So one of my greatest fears in life is actually not dying. It is not living to my true potential, is letting not good enough take over too much of my time, my life, and letting time go by, because we can't get time back. And I had this really deep thought when I was 28 years old, and it was, you know, I asked myself, if you died tomorrow, would you be happy with the life that you lived? And it was nice to go, yeah, you've done a lot. You're not finished, but you've done a lot. And I often go back and I ask myself that question, if you died tomorrow, would you be satisfied? And I can safely say in this present moment, yeah, if I died tomorrow, I'd be pretty satisfied, but the job's not done yet.
Yeah.
Because I don't, you know, I said death does something to me. It reminds me we're only here for a short time.
Yes.
So fucking make the most out of it. How quickly does a year go? Do you want that to be 5? No. Take the risk. You got to risk it to get the biscuit. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to learn something. You fail, look, you know, be process driven. Look at what let you down. We can't always get it the first time. I have failed many times. I have made so many mistakes, and you bet they changed how I approach things later on.
I'm curious to know, like, what were like the biggest mistakes that you'd come across, maybe in career specifically, that taught you one of the most important life lessons that you live by today?
I'm a huge fan of mentors. So in the beginning, when I first started competing, I did it all myself. Sure, it got me somewhere, but having coaches, it took me to the moon. And I would never, ever, ever not work with a coach in some way. And majority of my money that I make goes to education, goes to getting coached or mentors or courses, because again, like, I just love being surrounded by people who are either smarter than me or doing better than me. And so for anyone here that thinks they can do it on their own, go. Like, I'm not saying you can't do it, do your best, but at some point you're going to be a bottleneck, right? Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Investing in yourself is one of the greatest things you will ever do, but you have to do the work. So something I say to my girls is, cool, you've paid some money, but now you got to do the thing.
Yeah.
Right? You can go and pay money for anything, but if you don't do it, that's what's letting you down. It's not that you don't have the money. You haven't seen the value. And to see the value, you have to go and do the thing. So actually a few years ago, when I first started working with Lane Norton, I said this to him a couple of weeks ago when I saw him in person. I said, I was a really bad client when I first met you. And he's like, he doesn't remember at all. I was probably I said, oh, it's just a number to you. But he didn't, he was fine. I paid $2,500. This is 12 years ago. And $2,500 that time, when I was 20 years old, was a lot of money. And, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn flexible dieting. And I didn't do what he told me to do. I sat back in my own shit and kept doing what I was doing. And my partner at the time said to me, are you going to re-sign with him? I was like, no, I don't see him. I don't think he was worth that. And he goes, did you do anything? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you didn't actually do the thing. He's like, you're going to pay for that again out of your own money, not the business. and you're going to be a proper client. And I'm so glad he made me do that, because you bet I was like, now I've got to pay for that out of my own pocket. Like, all right. And I went and did the thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, that was so valuable. That was life-changing for me, right? So the thing about when we get coached is we learn skills, right? We learn skill sets for life, hopefully. Tracking your nutrition is a tool. It's a skill set that you can rely on if you need to. Tracking your training, learning how to train properly, efficiently, learning how to train less, recovering, learning how to meditate, or, self-development work. You are not wasting money. You're only wasting money if you don't go do the thing. So I highly recommend for anyone here, and I know sometimes it costs money, but if we think about just the cost and not the value, then we're going to get at a sticking point, because you also have to weigh up the cost of, do I want to continue living life like this? Nothing is more expensive than wasting time.
Yeah, 100%. Time you can never get back, but money comes and goes, right?
Yeah. And let me tell you, you'll make that money back. Your mindset will change, and you will go for things. You'll work harder, you'll work smarter, you'll outsource, you'll know your goals, you'll be process driven. It's never a waste of money to work on yourself.
Wow, that is 100%. Like, I resonate with everything that you've been saying today, Hattie. It's been incredible. So for the listeners that want to write things down in a dot point type form or list, what would be your 5 biggest tips for having an athlete mindset?
Language is a big thing. So I always say language is a weapon of love or destruction. How are you going to use it? And a part of having an athlete mindset is choosing the words that are going to empower you. I can, I will, the word devoted. If you're devoted to something, even the word devoted, it's such a sexy but firm but also soft word. It's I'm devoted. I always say I'm devoted to myself, which means I'm a nurturer, but I'm also the coach. And I'm also you said you're going to do this thing, so you're going to go do it. And then there's other times where it's hey, you're doing the best that you can. So, I love the word devoted. Language. Write out words or questions or anything that's going to help you identify where you're at and where you want to go. Location is everything. Okay, where are you right now in your life, in your relationship with yourself, with your finances, with your work, with your relationship with others, and get really clear. And where is it that you want to be? What does your ideal life look like? Write it out. That's a great exercise I do with my partner, and that has been life-changing for both of us. The next thing is an athlete mindset looks after themselves. So let's look at the things that look after ourselves. What are our daily practices? What are the habits that we do every morning? Do we start it off with making our bed, then meditating? Is it saying a word of affirmation to yourself? Is it tracking your nutrition and looking at food as a support system, okay, to meet the demands, not make us smaller, make us bigger, more powerful, strong, and in that still incorporating foods that you enjoy eating. Now, I do this ritual with my food in the way that I love chocolate, and in the past I used to eat half a block in 2.1 seconds. Now I literally take off 4 squares and I go sit in the sun and I drink some water and I embrace this moment of eating the chocolate. Now that sounds really silly, but that helped me repair this habit or behavior that I used to have with this food that I really did love eating, but I restricted for a long time because it was the association with chocolate was I can't stop. So I had to change my association with this food. Just like I had to change my association with training, just like I had to change my association with myself, essentially. So an athlete mindset is, all right, how do we support ourselves through our practices of our behaviors, our words and language, our nutrition, our recovery, right? More is just more. More is not better. Can I apply effort where effort's due? Can I take myself to that uncomfortable place in the gym, knowing that nothing bad's going to happen, but actually I'm going to grow here. The discomfort here at the edge, I'm going to push it. I'm going to meet myself where I want to be met. I can do this. I've got this. You go, right? Resilience. How do we build resilience? We have to be uncomfortable and we have to sit there and go, I've got this. Managing sleep is a big one. managing play. So something that I say is being the hardest worker in the room is often knowing when to rest and when to play. Okay, we can all be the hardest worker in the room when we go to the gym, but more is just more. So is it resting when we need to rest? Is it also being playful, right? Friendship, love, kisses, playing with our dogs, playing with our kids, like that is a part of being an athlete, right? And then also knowing when we got to push, when we got to pull back. If we've got a really intense goal, that is the time that we're going to be so devoted to that plan.
Yeah.
And, people talk about FOMO or missing out or sacrifice. You can't have it all. So you plug the phases in where you're going to be absolutely devoted to this craft. And then after that, you can have a little play, but then you got to go and back into that thing. So to me, that kind of wraps up an athlete mindset because we're also a human being, right? And how do humans thrive? It's not just work, 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 but it's also not play, play, play.
Yeah.
It is that balance between all of them.
Yeah, it's knowing like the cycle and knowing when is your time. It's like, okay, my body is signaling to me right now, I need to get better sleep, I need to rest, I need to play. And then it's like the signal of like, okay, I need to go now. Like I'm being called, this idea keeps coming to me, I need to take the action. Because for me, like even especially when I started this podcast, I've spoken about this a few times, like I had the idea to start a podcast for a year before.
I had mine for 5 before I started.
Yeah.
5.
It's like I had this idea that kept in my mind, and it was like, I spoke about this at one of my events the other day. When we get an idea that does not go away, it is a calling. It's calling you forward to your potential, to that best version of yourself. And there's like that initiation of fear, right? That's going to come up at your edge. And if you keep getting those ideas, you keep letting it go, like it's just going to stay there the whole time. You're going to be, oh, I should have started sooner. When it's actually right now, you get that choice. You can do that now.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So Hattie, I have a few more questions and then we will wrap up today. I want to be mindful of your time, of course. So I'm curious to know, what is your routine? Like how do you wake up and like what does a typical day in the life look like for Hattie?
Yeah. So at the moment, I wake up at about, I'd say 5:45 in the morning. And I used to walk with my partner every morning, but as he's in a growing season, he needs a little bit more sleep. So I wake up on my own. My dog generally comes into the bed for a cuddle before we get up. And then I go straight out to the beach and I don't let myself touch my phone till I've made it to the coffee shop. And that's where I can put up a post or do some writing. And I always just like to sit in the sun. I like to sit in the sun, have the air on my skin and the sun on my skin and hear the waves and just chill. Like I hate being rushed in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'll do that and I'll come back, have some breakfast, and I'd usually have coaching calls for a couple of hours in the morning till about 10 a.m., get another mid-morning coffee, head over to the gym, come back, and then I'll have afternoon of like work on the computer. And then I might have some calls again in the afternoon. Then I take my dog for a sunset walk with my partner. That's the time that we get to hang out. And then we actually, at the moment, we do a lot of work at night. I never used to. I used to be like work in the morning, but now I have calls in the morning. So we just sit on the couch and like put a movie on in the background and we just chill and talk about work and like work. It's just like so cruisy. And then, yeah, that kind of, I'm in bed by 9:30. My partner goes to bed much later than me because I get up earlier than him. And I feel like I've done a lifetime of work before he's even made it up. So yeah, that's pretty much how our days go.
I love that. Yeah. And what is next for you? Like I remember you saying earlier that you see yourself speaking on stages, and even though that's something that has challenged you in the past, like I want to know what's next for Hattie and what is that purpose that is calling you forward?
I've always loved educating. I've never seen myself as an influencer, but I've seen myself of someone as of influence. And what I mean by that is, being a coach, being someone who is passionate about the relationship with self and mindset is like, I can put things out there to help someone shift their perspective, be of influence of, hey, look what's on the other side of recovery. When I talk about my story of how I started, I don't highlight anorexia. I highlight what's on the other side, which is recovery. Life happens in recovery, being strong, loving yourself. Like I love myself and I can still be so fucking frustrated with myself, but I still love myself. I love myself like I love my sister.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to do that.
Unconditional.
Unconditional love. Like, learn our fucking boundaries, like, for God's sakes. And sometimes we break them and we go, oh, what went wrong there? And it's like just continuing to stay curious about ourselves. I have my Train the Female Athlete course, online course, coming out actually this month, which is very exciting. So now people worldwide can learn from Sebastian and I the models that we teach with nutrition, the models that we teach with our programming to get girls strong. So that's really, I want to continue to stay in the education space. And, you know, for me, I'm like, I would love to be one of the top female educators in this space, educator, motivator, public speaker. That's definitely where I see myself going, but I also love coaching. So I'll have some, I guess, some new, without saying too much, coaching things happening kind of in the next back end of the year. So watch that space. And then also, you know, I'll compete. I'm going to do the Australian show. So I haven't competed in Australia for 9 years.
Wow.
So you bet I have a standard of myself that I want to walk out on that stage.
Ooh,
so
when would that be?
That's November.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I'll do the world titles next year. So I love competing. It's just a sport that I love because I actually find it really spiritual, so spiritual. And
tell me more.
Building your body teaches you so much about yourself, and far out you have to have patience. So I know of you guys, if you jump on my social media, you'll see me as I am now, but this is 16 years of work. Like this is not 6 years, it's triple that. And I love that. I've had to work for every change that my body's ever gone through. And there's something so rewarding about that. I can't rely on anyone else. It's me that shows up and does the thing, like radical self-leadership to the core. And I just love pushing the boundaries of myself, like going, holy shit, look what you're doing. And just the body is such an amazing vessel. It is such an amazing machine. But my mindset every year just gets so much better and gives me so much, you know, so much drive and so much purpose in a different way. Not that the purpose is actually external, the purpose is so internal.
Yeah.
Whereas my purpose externally is the coaching and the education and the public speaking. That's for others. This is very much for myself. And I think that's why I'm so in love with it.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for today, Hattie. Honestly, this has been such a special conversation to me, but not only just to me, I know that the listeners will absolutely love everything that you've had to say today. Now, where can my listeners find you if they want to know more about your course, about you and your coaching as well?
My Instagram, I don't have TikTok. I'm just an Instagrammer. Hattie Boydell is where you're going to find me. And I do my absolute best to get back to everyone. So please, please, please feel free to reach out, ask me any questions. I give a lot of free information. I'm also there for a chat, and it's me, it's not a bot. So that's something I'm very proud of. So
that's amazing.
Reach out.
You're amazing. You are. And I have one last question for you today, Hattie. Are you ready?
Yep.
So it's the first thing that comes to your mind. You can channel it through, trusting your intuition. It doesn't have to resonate with anything that we've spoken about today, or it can. If you were to give the listeners one piece of advice that you believe they need to hear right now, what would it be?
Gosh, honestly, it would be like, focus in here. Everything is in here. The trust with yourself, it's in here. The relationship with yourself, it is in here. And like I said, life changes when that relationship changes. The choices you make, the experience of life and yourself, that all changes. The other one is stay curious, right? Rather than being judgmental, be curious. Be curious about why you are the way you are, what you like. Like, you know, when you meet someone for the first time and you ask them all these questions, do that to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people don't know themselves, and it's kind of confronting sometimes, but you can run, but you can't run forever. So ask yourself questions. Ask yourself what you like. Ask yourself what you don't like. What are your boundaries? Like I said, where do you want to go? Who's the greatest version of yourself? Get so clear on that, because you don't just become her. You be her every day through your actions, right? And one day you'll look back and you'll suddenly go, I'm her.
Yeah.
You know, And that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. You're still going to have challenges. But if you can show up as her every day and take some space between being reactive and responsive and be responsive, you are going to make so many fantastic changes in your life. It all starts with you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hattie. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. And I'm super excited to watch the rest of your journey, especially in November as well. And yeah, like I said, this is what I wanted to do. And having you on here is my younger self's dream come true. And I'm so grateful.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, I'm really grateful that we were able to do this before I moved. So thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the Generation Elevation community. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a 5-star rating, written review, share, and tag me on Instagram at elise.riley. Until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep rising.